Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, welcome also, and don't forget to subscribe. Today I'm going to show you how to make this lovely traveling tote bag. So before we waste any time, let's get started. So I have this beautiful fabric, and I am going to start by measuring the width of the fabric is 21 inches and the length of the fabric is 28 inches. And then I'm going to fold it in half, and while it's on fold is going to be 13.5 inches. So now I am going to mark the squares on the corner of the bag, and they are going to be around 2.5 inches. So the square is going to be 2.5 inches. Then we're going to do this on both sides of the corner of the bag. So once I am done marking all the squares, I'm just going to cut out all the pieces. So I'm going to use this pattern to cut out the lining. So once I'm done cutting out the lining, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the interfacing. This will help the bag to be more stable. So now we're going to need another piece of fabric, and I'm going to cut out the pocket lining, and the pocket lining is going to be around 8 inches by 10. So the length is actually 8 inches on fold, and I'm going to make the width of the pocket lining to be around 10 inches. Now that I've cut all the materials out, it's time for us to sew this bag all together. So I'm going to start by ironing the facing together with the body of the bag, where the shiny part is going to be facing the inside of the material. Then after ironing it up, I am going to go ahead and take the lining for the bag, create a notch right there on the middle, and I'm going to do the same again with the pocket lining. Fold it and notch it to create the point right in the middle. Then once we are done, I am going to be placing it on top of the main lining. Make sure that the notches, they do match. Once you're done, I'm going to mark from that point, I'm going to mark 2 inches going down. And then I am going to place the pocket lining right on that 2 inch mark. From that marking on the pocket lining, I'm going to mark 3 inches or 2.5 inches, and then create a marking right there. The next thing is I am going to go in from the pocket lining, go in 1 inch on both sides. And then I am going to connect the 2 points that I made to create a straight line. Now what I'm going to do is creating a rectangle shape of around 1 inch or half an inch width. And as I did join the points together, I'm going to create a straight line in the middle. Now we have to go ahead to our sewing machine and sew along the triangle or the rectangle, sorry. We're gonna go ahead and sew around the rectangle shape. So once I am done, I'm going to now cut the middle line that we marked. Creating an opening, I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to make sure that you don't cut out or you don't cut through the seam. Once I am done opening the pocket, I'm going to turn the lining, and this is how the pocket looks. So I've chosen a smaller zip for the pocket. I'm going to insert it by lifting the lining up and then place it under the lining. Then I'm going to pin all around. You can pin or sew, hand sew, so that the zip doesn't move. Then go ahead and sew it on your sewing machine and change the foot to a zipper foot. And there we go, guys, this is how it looks. So now we just want to go ahead and close the pocket, and I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam around the pocket lining. So once we're done sewing the pocket, I'm going to go ahead and now open the inside, and this is how it all looks. So let's go ahead now and join the lining with the bag. So now I'm going to take the main body of the bag and also the lining, including the zip, which is around 22 inches, 22.5 inches. I'm just going to measure it to make sure that it's exactly the amount that I say it is. And then I am going to cut the tip of the zip because they're a little bit hard there, so I'm just going to cut them out. Now before we sew the lining and the zip together, I need to attach the belt. So from the side, I will go in by 6 inches and place a pin right there. And also on the other side, I'm going to go in by 6 inches and place a pin. Now I'm going to cut the belt of around 21 inches, and I'm going to do that times 2. So guys, just be careful when you're placing your handle, it doesn't twist, and I'm going to pin them down right after where I place the marking of the pins. So I'm just going to place it and make sure that it doesn't twist. Now you want to go ahead on the sewing machine and reinforce the handle so that they don't come out. I've done that, and the next thing we're going to do is to place our zip. So I'm going to make sure that the teeth, the zipper teeth, are facing the right side of the main bag. So once I arrived at the end of the zip, I'm going to leave around 1 inch and place a marking there, which is going to be the pin. And when I sew the zip, I'm going to make sure that I end right where I place the pin. And you want to do the same thing as you're going to be attaching the lining. And this is how you attach the lining. This is the inside of the lining. Make sure that it's facing the bag, the right side of the bag. And then you also want to pin it down together with the zip. And don't forget to leave the 1 inch that we have left on the zipper. And now we're going to go ahead and sew this on a sewing machine using our straight stitch. And don't forget that you have to use your zipper foot. Okay guys, once we are done sewing everything together, now it's time for us to do a top stitch. And now this is going to help for the lining to stay in place. And this is how it looks as soon as you are done. Now let's go ahead and sew the other side, which is very easy. Now sewing the other side is the same thing as what we did the first time. So you just want to make sure that the zipper teeth are facing the right side of the fabric. And then you want to lift the lining and make sure that the lining is also right sides facing the right side of the main fabric. And then when you're done, you're going to go ahead into a sewing machine and sew a straight stitch. Now that everything is attached together, it's time for us to close our bag. So I'm going to turn everything inside out. And then I'm going to make sure that I align the bag as it's supposed to be. Make sure that all the squares are aligned, including the zip is nicely attached or aligned. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew 1/2 inch seam allowance on the side. And also on the other side, make sure you pin and sew a 1 inch seam allowance. Since the bottom is not opened, we don't need to stress about that. And as you do so, make sure you leave an opening on the lining. So I am going to leave an opening of around 6 inches. So guys, now once we are done closing the sides for the lining and for the main bag, this is what we should do. As you can see the seam, we're going to make sure that the seams are facing together and sew the lining including the main bag together. This will help the lining inside the bag not to move around a lot. So I'm going to pin it and then follow the line or the seam that you have already sewn, sew on top of that seam. And this is how it should look. Then once we are done on both sides, it's time for us to turn the bag inside out or outside in, something like that, inside out. Well, it's time for us to turn the bag the right side out. I just love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. It's nice and firm. So now the only thing that is left for us is to close that opening. Okay, so you want to make sure that as you're turning it the right side, you want to make sure that those corners are pushed out before you sew the inside of the bag. And ta-da, it all looks so great. And then how you close the inside of the bag is you just join the side seam and you go ahead and sew it with a straight stitch, and then you are done. You can also do this by hand stitching it, but I think it's quicker if you still do it with a machine. And this is how it would look. So let me show you the end result of this bag. You see, and I love this bag so much. It's so cute.